Breaking a bad habit is something that everyone thinks they know how to do, but very few people actually know how to do. So my job today is to make this process a lot easier for whatever you're trying to break or whatever habit you're trying to quit. And before I say anything else, let me just say that I've grappled with pretty much every single bad habit under the sun, porn, weed, alcohol, vaping, all of it. And some of these habits were harder to break than others, and there were multiple times where I'd slip back into them for whatever reason. But now the only time that I even think about any of these things are when somebody asks me what they should do or how they could quit. And so essentially that is exactly why I'm making this video in the first place. And so I hope by the end of this video, you will feel confident that you don't have to watch any type of video like this ever again. And to be completely honest, I am not a fan of these types of videos in the first place, like the how to quit, blah, blah, blah videos or whatever. I'm not a fan, and I'll tell you why. But first of all, the only reason you even have habits in the first place is because you enjoy how you feel when you do them, plain and simple. It doesn't even matter if it's a good habit or a bad habit. But sometimes one of the hardest parts of, getting rid of a bad habit is realizing that it's a bad habit in the first place. So one of the most important things to understand is that good habits and bad habits are very different in how you feel before, during, and after them. So let's take a universally bad habit like watching porn, for example. Before, you feel pretty good. You get an urge, a pretty powerful urge, and you know exactly what kind of urge I'm talking about. And that urge becomes more and more powerful, and eventually it takes you over, and you feel like the only way to relieve this tension that you have building up inside of you is to engage in that particular habit. So you do the thing, you relieve the urge, but how you feel after is almost the complete opposite feeling of how you felt before and during. You feel just feelings of shame and guilt. And slowly you begin to wonder why you even did that thing in the first place. It's like not too long ago, you felt like it was the best thing you could possibly do for yourself, but now it's like the complete opposite. You feel awful. So essentially you felt good before, you felt really good during, but after you felt completely terrible. And good habits are like the complete opposite of this. So if you think of like a universally good habit, like going to the gym, like even for somebody like me, there will be many times where before I go to the gym, I do not feel like going to the gym at all. I might feel terrible. And even when I'm actually at the gym, I'm working out, I might feel terrible still. But the thing is, once you are done with these, like with exercise or whatever, or lifting weights, there is almost no instance where you feel bad or you feel like you regretted what you just did. I've never seen it happen. I mean, just ask yourself, has there ever been a single time where you've gone to the gym, especially when you feel like you didn't want to go to the gym before? You hit the workout, and then after you got done, you were like, oh my gosh, I wish I never did that. There's no way. And that is the biggest difference between good habits and bad habits for the most part. But I said earlier that I'm not a fan of these how to quit XYZ videos because I really do think they do more harm than good. And you might be wondering, like, how is something that tells me how to quit a bad habit harmful? And I'll tell you exactly why. But first, if you are trying to eliminate a bad habit from your life or anything bad from your life, and you tell yourself that you are quitting something, you are subconsciously admitting to yourself that you are giving up something that you enjoy, which is going to make getting rid of it or quitting it like just way harder than it needs to be. And on top of that, the more you think about this thing, even if it's about quitting, the more space it's going to take up in your head and the harder it's going to be to stop thinking about it and the harder it's going to be to quit it and get rid of it forever. And so the only way to completely eliminate a habit from your life is by removing it from your identity, because any habit you have it because it is a part of yourself. It's a part of your identity. So if you wanted to stop watching porn, you have to identify as somebody who does not watch porn, or if it's alcohol, you have to identify as somebody who does not drink alcohol. That's it. Because even when you tell yourself you are quitting something like this, like porn or weed, you still identify as a porn watcher or a weed smoker. It doesn't matter how you put it. That's how you view yourself. And I know shifting your identity like this is easier said than done, because it might feel like you're lying to yourself. Like if you smoke weed a lot and you have to tell yourself that I don't smoke weed, it might feel like a lie because it is, and that's okay. This is one of those scenarios where lying to yourself is okay, because you can lie to yourself until it becomes the truth. Because at some point, maybe it's a week, a month, a year, even maybe longer, that lie you have been telling yourself is, you suddenly realize it's no longer a lie. And that is exactly when you know you've beat this. Okay, I can't believe this, but I forgot to include like a really extreme but powerful technique or strategy that you can use if you have an addiction to something that is very, very strong and you don't know if you can just, shift your identity and make it go away. If it's like cigarettes or vaping, or maybe it's weed, you can take this with a grain of salt because it can be dangerous. I don't know if I would do this with something like alcohol, but consume so much of that thing. Like if it's a cigarette, like smoke so many cigarettes, vape so many vapes, smoke so much weed that it makes you want to throw up and you get disgusted by even just looking at that thing afterwards. Or if it's food, honestly, you can do this with food. If you have a really bad problem eating lots of food. Eat so much food that it makes you just can't move. You throw up and you just cannot look at food. You can do this over and over and over again until you just cannot look at that food or that cigarette or that vape or that weed. I have not done this like a lot or intentionally. I've heard a lot of people do this and have a lot of like success. They get so disgusted by even just thinking about like a cigarette or a vape that they never want to touch it ever again. And one more thing, if that does not appeal to you, if you have a really strong addiction to something that you just don't think you can quit, you just don't. I don't know what might be going through your head or through your body, but if it's like alcohol or weed or something like that, whatever, make it something that you can use as a reward, not an escape. Because I know lots of people that use alcohol and weed, they use it as a tool to escape from their daily life, or they just escape from reality. But the thing is with these things, like with these substances, if you just can't get them to leave, if you really just need to cling on to them, I don't know why. This is not something that I would really recommend to everybody, but if you just can't get rid of it, you have to counteract the effects. You have to do everything in your power to design a life that minimizes the adverse effects of alcohol. So if because weed, for example, makes you lazy, it makes you passive, it makes you really comfortable, it makes you just being okay with being bored. Alcohol makes you not, I don't know, there's a very interesting stigma around alcohol because there are people like functional alcoholics, but the thing about functional alcoholics is that most of them have work days where they just do so much work, they just get so much shit done that they use the alcohol at the end of the day as the reward for all the hard work that they've done. They don't use it to escape from their work life. They don't use it to like hide. They don't go off and like hide their little drinking addiction, whatever. They use it as a reward. And so if you have something that is just so powerful that you really don't think you can live without it, design a life. Design your days so that you use it as a reward, and maybe try and just wean off, like just go little by little. Maybe if you just need to drink 10 beers to get drunk, maybe it's just, slowly go down 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, and so on. I'm going to be honest, I've never had an addiction that is that strong, that powerful. And I know a lot of people do. And so it's kind of hard for me to say, what you should do if you have one of those, because I'm not speaking from that experience. But those are the two things that I've heard have really helped people with insanely strong addictions. And I mean, the same thing I just said with gambling. If you can make so much money, like doing whatever, that gambling does not have any effect on your financial stability, I mean, that's how you can design a life around this terrible addiction, and so it doesn't have a terrible effect on your life. And so I just I thought of those things, and I did not remember to include them. But I really wanted to, and I need to, so I did. So enjoy the rest of the video. And I'm not saying this is going to be easy for you, because most of the time it is not. And there have been many times in the past where I was trying to quit one of these habits, and it felt almost impossible, even when I knew that it was holding me back. But there came a point where the pain of not being who I needed to be was greater than the pain I knew I would feel quitting one of these habits or getting rid of them. And I knew the pain that I would feel would also only be temporary. It was only temporary, and I knew that the pain I would feel would not even come close to the pain I would feel if I went my entire life knowing that I was a slave to something that was, keeping me back and holding me from being somebody who I knew I could be. And this is why having a purpose or a mission or some sort of delusional goal that you are working towards every single day, because without something that you are working towards, it's probably going to be extremely difficult for you to find reasons why you should give up one of these habits, because you don't have anything that's going to give you a reason why you should do it. It's going to be hard to find reasons why you shouldn't just keep doing what you're doing and stay where you are until you realize that you aren't where you want to be. Because there are so many people, you might not believe this, there are so many people who are so terrified, so petrified of the effort it might take to change their life for the better, that they hold on to these habits, they hold on to these things that their life depends on it, even if they know deep down that it's holding them back. And you have things like depression, for example, that affect millions of people. And I've been somebody who's called myself a depressed person before, but there came a point where I realized that there was nothing that was going to come and save me from my depression. And I had to understand that the only way I was going to get out of this situation and not be depressed anymore was by identifying as somebody who is not depressed. And it sounds crazy because there are so many people who will fight tooth and nail as like they'll just tell you every reason why this does not work, but this is what worked for me, so that's what I'm saying. But I realized that I had no other option but to beat it myself, and I had to do the same exact thing that I did with all these other habits, and I had to completely eliminate it as a concept in my head. I had to no longer identify as somebody who was depressed. I'm not going to sit here and act like the feelings of depression don't exist, because we're all human, we all have feelings and emotion, but the second you identify as somebody who is depressed, or you call yourself a depressed person, you are voluntarily attaching it to your identity. And do you see how dangerous this could be? This is. And when I tell people that this is the way that I overcame depression, like that I just no longer chose to identify as somebody who's depressed, and I no longer, accepted it as a concept in my reality, like people will fight me so hard on this. And it's crazy. They'll talk about how it's like changed their brain chemistry. It's a part of who they are. And I'm like, why in the world are you fighting so hard for something that absolutely sucks? Like something that you just do not want? Because even if you do decide to call yourself somebody who is depressed, right, the ultimate end goal should be to become somebody who is not depressed. Am I right? Like the only way to do that is by removing the concept of depression from your identity and becoming somebody who is not depressed. It's that simple, but people just don't accept this. They do not want to hear this. These people will continue to call themselves depressed people, but what they don't understand is that until they can no longer call themselves a depressed person, they identify as somebody who is not depressed, they will always be depressed. Depression will have control over them forever. End of story. And I think some of these people don't even want to hear that, because it would give them a reason why they would have to change. It would make them realize that change is possible. And like people really don't want to hear that sometimes. And again, I do not care if you have to lie to yourself and tell yourself that you are not a depressed person, even if you know deep down that you really think you are. You can lie to yourself. I promise you can lie to yourself until those lies become the truth. And that is how you beat all these bad habits. That is how you beat all these terrible states of mind. And that is honestly how you achieve anything in life, by lying to yourself until it becomes the truth. And I'm telling you, anything you do, literally anything at all, starts and ends right up here. And once you realize that is the moment you realize that you have the power to do absolutely anything you want. So if this was helpful, feel free to subscribe and leave your thoughts down below. Go make those changes because you can. And until next time, peace out.